the more important equations is the value to cost sustainability ratio of a given relationship. And so I want to illustrate that here, in which we have partner A and partner B. And one of the amazing things with human beings is they're different than we are. What I think is valuable is completely different, or can be completely different than what you think is valuable as a human being. Now, in the myopia of relational ignorance, in the self-centeredness that is induced by a traumatized culture, what we tend to do is focus on ourselves. This is always, by the way, what a traumatized culture does. The more self-centeredness in the culture, the more trauma underlies that culture. The reason for this is very simple. The traumatized individual is reduced into a reptilian state of fight, flight, freeze to navigate and jostle for scarce resources in a sociopathic environment in which if they don't fight for themselves, run fast enough, do this, their needs will not be met. In a culture of abundance, for example, if you go to Denmark, you will find an incredible amount of curiosity, an incredible amount of hospitality, of freedom, of thoughtfulness. You will find a country in which everyone has a college degree, in which everyone I interviewed loved the job they were working in, loved the country. These are astounding statistics. If you talk to a group of 100 Americans and 100 Danish people, how many Americans love their government? How many Americans love their job? How many Americans feel healthy? How many Americans are doing what they want to be doing? How many Americans feel safe in their finances, in their health, in their future, in their retirement plans? How many of you have time to connect with others? And you just ask those 5 questions, 100 random people to 100 random people, and you will find a staggering discrepancy. Now, with that discrepancy of security in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you do not move beyond survival until survival is taken care of. You don't move beyond the security in your survival until that has been taken care of. You don't move beyond trying to please and feel belonging. This can be a prostitution relationship in exploitive cultures where, you have to do this and please the boss like this and, butter this person's ass and all this to get ahead. So you don't get to feel a sense of self-esteem until you've met your sense of love and belonging, that you have a safe cultural refuge. Well, cultures that have the love and belonging thing very strongly, Thailand and Denmark are both such cultures, are very curious about others, because once the self is not in trauma or in threat of trauma, it's far more interesting to focus on other people. Other people are way more interesting than getting to know this person again and again and again. It's all about other people. What do you think? Oh, why do you think that? Why do you do that in America? Oh, you don't have free health care there? Why not? Interesting. You don't pay your kids to go to college? Why not? You have a much wealthier culture if your children are college educated. Yes, we know, but what we do is we saddle them with student debt, and some of them don't like it. So, we don't all go to college. And, oh, interesting. Well, very, very interesting. So, you have a very other-centered world when an individual is secure. You know the health of an individual basically by how much they're focusing on other people rather than themselves from a position of strength, meaning This is not the person that has to negate themselves, abase themselves, beg and crawl and focus on their abuser in order to get their basic needs met, which is the other form of other focus. That's the unhealthy kind. But when someone is confident, I know how to make money, I know how to create belonging, I know how to be secure in my environment, the very next thing after I feel secure and good about that is, how can I help? How can I help you? And conversely, it's all about me, I don't want to know you, go away, you're a stranger, why would I want to help you, this and that? This is a traumatized mentality. Because when I'm in overwhelm because I'm not sure of my own basic needs and I'm in scarcity, everyone could take the little of I've got. It's a competition in a state of the illusion of limited resource. There are infinite resources, but the illusion of limited resources. And so, you know, this creates this kind of dynamic. Now, in that dynamic where we project our needs and our wants, everyone should watch action movies because I watch action movies. It doesn't occur to us that we would have different values than another person. But in fact, every single human state, every single human activity, every single environment registers differently on two key metrics. How valuable is it? 1 to 10. How valuable and what is the cost in your mind, 1 to 10. So partner A wants to go to an action flick and values it a 10. Partner B wants to go to an action flick for a different reason and values it a 2. Partner A thinks $10, 20 minutes in traffic, no big deal, I like driving, puts the cost at a 1. This is a +9 value to cost ratio. So 10 out of 10 value, 1 out of 10 price, net profit 9. This is a great thing to do for partner A. Now partner B, it's a +2 I'm going to just genderize it. So she thinks it's a 2, and for her the cost is a 4 and a 5. The 5 is financial, the gas, the time off doing something that's going to make a little money, the cost of the movie, a little bit of anxiety about credit card debt. So 5 for her around the cost, but 4 is around the emotional cost. She wants an evening talking about some important things. And it seems like every time there's a chance to talk about this, he's off, let's do a movie, let's go out to dinner, let's spend more money, and she wants to send her in a bit more. So there's a lost evening involved that she values 4 because there's a topic he's been delaying. So 2 minus 9 plus 2 minus 9 equals a -7. So if they go to the movie, it will be a -7 for her, it'll be a +9 for him. +9 is a bigger number than -7. And so in an either-or world of scarce choices, you would go to the movie if this was the only option in a partnership where you wanted to do a lot of things together. Now, this is a very important equation, and there are a couple of different principles. Now, the reality is, of course, this is a terrible thing to do because why not aim for activities that are +7 for both people? Meaning, let's try and this movie is not the only movie. This is not the only thing we could do. This is not the only conversation we could have. We could do a number of things. And so one of the good ways to get out of this kind of mediocre experience is ahead of time to have each person make a list, 1 to 10, this makes me feel loved. If you buy me flowers and write a nice card on a natural landscape with some appreciations, meaning at least 3 things you like about me, a card of a beautiful natural landscape, preferably waterfalls, fragrant daffodils, a nice color like this, that's a 10 for me. So that's 10 for partner A. Partner B says, if you will wake me up at around 2 a.m., that's the perfect time, I've got a few hours sleep, wake me up at 2 a.m. wearing a cat hat and give me a blowjob in absolute silence, and then go back to bed, cuddling, and make me coffee and fresh squeezed orange juice in the morning. That is a 10. Okay. What would make me feel totally loved and supported is if you would get insurance on your motorcycle and this, so I'm not freaking out every time you leave my house. That would be a 9. Okay. What would be a 8 for me is to go hiking for a weekend, blah, blah, blah. You make a list, 10, 20, 30 items. The longer the better. You make a list. You make a list for both people. What would be a peak experience for me as a couple would be to do X, Y, and Z. Now, our culture has a meager palette for a small menu of cultural norms. It is, after all, a cult. It has its little repetitious things that are mostly facilitated by corporations because nobody else cares enough in our cult to create new and exciting traditions based on enriching the civic life of people. And so we have lots of financially motivated, financially funded activities from people that, yes, they want to make something a little bit interesting, but they need to make money, and so there's this thing. And of course, the large corporations spend the most money to promote the movie, the Gucci handbag. So basically, shopping, eating, movies, a hike. Where's the cultural repertoire of 200 menus of exciting, salivating activities? Where's the list? What's the menu? It's very tired. So you've got to create your own. And when you have a 30-item list, this is what you can do to make me feel totally loved. This is not how you're going to be loved. Just in case you don't know, I've done a lot of these lists with partners, and it's not that way. No. If you have 30, if you give your partner 30 ways to love you fully and completely, they're going to look at 10 of them and they're going to say, this is terrible. I'm never going to do that. They're going to look at 10 of them and they're going to say, it's not really me, but seeing as it's a 10 for you and it's not that hard, I'm willing to do this for you, even though I've never done it before. I don't have any mental objections. It's just something I would never have done if I hadn't seen it on your list. Hint, hint. This is a good list to have. And then there's 10 that they're going to say, this is me. I'm so glad you like that, because it gives me all the more confidence to do more of that. Now, this is, of course, an intelligent person who appreciates being coached, as opposed to a rebellious, defiant person who equates weakness with doing anything that makes the other person happy. If you're dealing with one of those, there is no list, and usually there's no relationship. But with someone that wants to be coached, with someone that wants to learn, with someone that wants to grow, you each have a 30-person list. You get 10 items, roughly, that you each love doing for each other. You get another 10 items that you, anytime you want to look at the list to do something really special for your partner that isn't normal for you, you look at the list and you do it. And you check up. How was it? You said this would be a 10. How was it? Well, the way I had imagined it was you were going to suck my penis like this, and you didn't. You actually bit me. So it was a 5. But if I can give you a lesson, it will be a 10. Everything else worked great. Yes, well, I thought you would actually get motorcycle insurance that covered you, not the other driver, when I'm worried about you. I thought it would include your medical, not just the motorbike. I don't care about the motorbike. I don't want you to end up dead because you don't have medical in this. So, fine tune. That's your script. These are things that you don't get to just guess, because you're dealing with another person with their own values who interprets little shortcut lists in their own way. The peak experience list, ways I want to grow, new experiences I want to have with my partner. Why do you do it? Well, you don't do it because it's easy in America. You will get some people running away rather than write down 30 things to make them feel loved. You will get some people running away rather than be interested in 30 ways to make you feel loved. But what you're actually giving is a wide highway to sustainability, to one another. It is the greatest gift you can possibly give. It's a little bit like a business where the customer says, you can mow our lawn and I'll give you $1. You can weed the garden and I'll give you $1. You can trim our hedges and I will shout at you because I don't like my hedges trimmed. Or you can sweep the driveway and I will give you $100. I cannot stand the way that driveway looks. Well, thanks for telling me. I don't think I'll be doing your weeding. Don't think I'll be doing this. I might show up and sweep that driveway. I'm certainly going to avoid those hedges. Thank you for telling me. I now have a profitable business rather than an irritated customer making $1. This is the path to sustainability. The path to sustainability in a business is you've got to bring in a lot more money than you spend. The path to sustainability in a relationship is you have to receive and deliver a lot more value than the cost. Meaning, if you notice over a 5-year period that you are poorer mentally, poorer emotionally, poorer sexually, poorer financially, poorer in your physical energy level, and it all seems to correlate to patterns with your partner, if you care at all about yourself, you'll be out of that relationship or changing it. If you do not care about yourself, your partner has an even bigger problem, because you're going to drive yourself into the ground and then they're going to have a partner who has nothing to give. So then if they're usurious, they will dump you and go off and find someone who's all excited because someone else took good care of them. You see, we're gardeners and we garden each other as plants. At the end of a relationship, you're either deeply enlivened and excited and happy and ready to give even more to the next partner, or you're completely drained and exhausted because both of you took everything imaginable out of each other and never delivered the goods and haven't helped the next partner. So sustainability begins with coaching. Now, why is it that the client shouts about the hedge that someone else would think need cleaning or need trimming, only gives $1 for weeding and $100 for the driveway? This is not objective value. You see, this is subjective. It's perfectly simple. She's been driving home. She hates dust from brooms. She hates leaves crackling for some reason. And every day for the last 100 days, leaves have crackled because she doesn't want to get out of a broom and smell the dust, which makes her sneeze. And all of this frustration is taken off her plate if you show up and sweep the driveway. Meanwhile, she likes the natural look of the hedges. She's never noticed the weeds and can give a shit about that. And so this is her. This is her. This is this particular person. Now the key, if you haven't spotted it, is that you never know the 1 to 10s of someone else unless you ask. Be my guest if you want to go down the long list of the 90% of all businesses that fail for numerous reasons, but basically because they could not provide enough value and deliver a return on investment before they ran out of cash. The 90% of all small businesses that fail, the 90% of all relationships that fail, do so for cash flow. The net return is not high enough to make the massive investments. Now, we in America, we are entitled. Now, this is a killer because you will never get back what you don't put in. But after we've been burned a few times, we kind of stand back and say, well, I've spent time with men before. I've spent time with women. You guys are not very, well, you know, I have a dubious impression of you. So I'm not going to fork out any gold or sex or money or time, whatever. You can court me and waste your time and all that. And maybe in a few years, if you're doing a good job, I'll reevaluate. Well, everyone signs up for that contract, right? So, it's a complete disaster. Now, you have in this mix of absurdity all kinds of platitudes like give love that must be given unconditionally. Well, when's the last time you went out and just gave Best Buy a few $100s of love and they said, well, just keep it, enjoy it. If you want to give me a laptop, well, it's up to you. When's the last time that customers not getting an invoice just showed up and said, you know, just for the hell of it, I'm going to pay you a bunch of money? No, it's the reason business works significantly better than personal relationships the majority of the time is that in business you negotiate very clear terms of win-win and you both confirm before entering the transaction that both of you believe that the transaction will deliver more value at a low cost ratio than not having the transaction. Or it's win-win or no deal, or you don't do the deal. Now if the customer says, this could almost be a good transaction, but I've only got $50, you say, okay, I'll only sweep half the driveway. How's that? Okay. And then maybe next week you got another $50. Or how about a bonus payment? How about you pay me $110 with a $10 payment for the lateness of the other 60? You want to do that? Or are you just messing with me? You know, you negotiate in the terrain until both of you. Now, if you can't, if you say, you know, I'm sure you can find some neighbor kid to sweep this for $50. Go out and try. But I'm not going to get in my truck, drive 30 minutes, come over here just to sweep your driveway for $50. It's not really what I'm interested in doing anyway. But why don't you try Driveway Kid? Why don't you try Craigslist, and more power to you. You know, I've got other work, building walls, building waterfalls, you know, and etc. So you want to have every interaction. The reason that a client will call you back is if every interaction delivers more value than the cost, mentally, emotionally, physically, financially. if they feel better about themselves and about you at the end of the transaction than they did at the beginning. Now, this is no different than a partner. Does your partner feel better about themselves after the date than they did at the beginning? Do they feel better about you at the end of the date than they did at the beginning? If not, it is a withdrawal, and it is in your interest to know by how much. Now, it's wonderful in a fantasy land where people were emotionally and culturally and relationally literate, meaning where you learned all about making people feel totally loved in high school, and you learned all about how to feel totally loved in college, and you learned all about how to turn hate into love and love into exquisite beauty and all of this, and then you learn how to navigate cultural differences and use different algorithms and practice this, and you practice this style of love and that style of love. You learn this love language and that love language, and it's been working wonderful. At this point, you can start to be a little bit intuitive. But for the novices that we are, most of us not receiving a single hour of emotional literacy in all of our formal education, we need the numbers. Business people, even who've run multi-billion-dollar companies, they will not operate without their quarterly reports. They want to know, are the customers increasing or decreasing? Is the excitement increasing or decreasing? Are advertising revenues increasing or decreasing? Is the net profit? The net profit is this number, +9 for A, -7 for B. Now, do you think partner A is going to want to see partner B after having a +9? You betcha. Can't get better than that. You think partner B, who has a choice between dating at -7 or a +8 for her, is going to be excited to see partner A? Not likely. Not likely. Yes, there are plenty of other variables, meaning it does not all depend on a given movie night. But the best way to build the most powerfully sustainable business is to expand the choices, to go to the third alternative. This is a great book by Stephen Covey. But if you've got 30 ways to love him and 30 ways to love her, I'm not going to get into the whole gender, multi-ethnic, the queer, bi, and all that, but the partner, A, B. If you've got 30 and 30, and if you've got a list of 10 peak meaningful experiences you'd like to have with your next partner, and they've got a list of that, and you get -7 + 9, an intelligent place to turn is, how about you love me on one of my lists? Or let's do a package deal. It's a -7 to go on this movie thing because of this and this. But if we package it with one of my top love languages, which is you do this and this that makes me feel loved after the movie, that would move the night into a +8 for me, +9 for you, unless you resent having to do that. Now, what we're looking for is per hour spent, what's the score, the net score. So for a +8 and a +9, we've got +17 for the couple. +17 for the couple. Well, when the top score for the couple is 20, no cost and total benefit, i.e. eye-gazing that creates an exquisite moment for both of you and is absolutely free and is delightful to both people. When the top score is 20, this is a highly profitable business. Now, there's a lot of backlash of this is unromantic, this is uncomfortable, this is too much work. There is a lot of sloppy relationships. There are a lot of failed relationships. There are a lot of relationships that go downhill and are as boring as the bored people driving them into the ground. This is a way to put some backbone, some discipline into the equation. Discipline to say, I am not satisfied with the fact, I get that you are a pleaser and that you build up passive-aggressive resentment over a 5-year period, and we never do it my way and blah, 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 that comes out at year 5. I get that, and I get that you're quite comfortable going to a movie that, when I ask you about it, is a -7, and I get that I'm absolutely enjoying the movie. But I think you'd be a pretty good partner. I don't just want to dump you at year 5 when you start complaining about all the unfairness. I'd rather have it be fair. So you're happy to settle at -7, I'm not. Let's go through some of these things and find something that you are a +8. No, 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 no. Whatever you want to do is fine. Well, thank you. Whatever I want to do is go through the list and find something that's a +8 for you. That is at least 7 or higher for me. And so you go through this. You're looking for sustainable net profit on the value scales that are invisible. See, you don't get to know, if you don't ask, that the reason it's a -4 to go on the movie date is because I want to talk about something and you've been procrastinating, and tonight is going to be another night that we don't talk about it, and that's why it's a 4. You get to see that if you do the math. Oh, is it really that big a deal? I guess I have procrastinated 3 times. Wonder why I'm doing that. Well, in fact, now that you mention it, I'd much rather talk about what you wanted to talk about than go to the movie. I don't want to be one of those people that procrastinate all the core issues until the relationship goes bankrupt. That's a crappy recipe for success. Skip the action movie, let's have the conversation. So what would be the ideal way to have the conversation? Well, I'd like to talk for about 30 minutes about the whole pattern without any interruption. I'd like to be told that you admire me for being courageous. This is a big stretch. Then I'd like to hear if there's any reason why you're fighting me every step of the way on this. And I'd like to hear where you can move towards me on this. And just learn a little bit about you. I mean, why? It seems like common sense to want to do this. You don't. There must be a reason why. What's going on for you? I want to see you. What is this? Childhood trauma? Is this? What's going on? That's what I'd like to know. So you have the conversation. The relationships go bankrupt, number 1, and relationships lose trust. Because here's another kind of very important subject part of this. If I'm in a relationship with you where it takes 1 unit of time, let's say 10 minutes is a unit of time, to save me 6 units of time, so there's a 1 in 6 ratio. You want to be my friend, and if you did this for 10 minutes, I would save an hour. And you know it, and I know it, but you never seem to have the 10 minutes, do you? This is a recipe for broken trust, because it's behaving as if we are separate beings in a self-centered scarcity mentality. Because in an abundance mentality, why wouldn't I do it just for the joy of it, to help you save an hour? I'm going that way anyway, I'll pick it up for you. I'm just letting you know, I'm at Costco, you want me to grab you anything for 5 minutes? Oh yes, I could do this and this. If I don't want to do that, so you have to drive all the way there and all the way back, and then you don't do that for me, we're not really in a partnership. We're in a self-centered transactional relationship, where whenever it happens that you save me time and it's easy, then I'll do it. And whenever you happen, now if you are in a partnership, meaning you're considering me but I'm not considering you, the relationship starts to go down in value for one person, and usually the person who's giving the most will disengage because it's not a sustainable relationship. The value structure of a given individual. Why does one person stand here in front of a video for free and talk about all this? What is it that makes this the most valuable use of my time to me? What's the painful part about it? Do you know? Do you want to know? See, this determines whether we get into a rapport relationship, or whether it's I'm just doing my thing because of my value hierarchy and you're doing your thing, and oh, that's great, I learned something from that, let me go and apply it, somewhere else. This determines whether a relationship gets stronger or gets weaker. Now, there is an enormous amount, you get what you receive, not true. Or you get what you give, not true. You go around giving thousands of dollars to people, I've tried it. You do not suddenly find bunches of people giving you thousands of dollars. You make invitations. I've made over 1,000 invitations to have a question, what makes you feel totally and completely loved? In my entire life, there has never been a human being asking that question. So the data does not support that what you give, you get in terms of the same thing. There are relationships. For example, if I give lots of calls to lots of people, the odds of calls coming back go up. That doesn't mean they're going to ask the same question that I ask them, or give the same invitation that I gave them. But energy does tend to be somewhat reciprocal. If you punch someone, typically they'll engage in some way to let you know that's not okay. If you don't punch someone, you don't get that attention. If you betray someone, typically you're going to have to deal with the fallout of that betrayal. If you do not, you don't. There's a half-truth around the you give what you get, and it does not equate to win-win in your love language in any detail on any consistent basis. This does, meaning in more than 1,000 conversations, 98% of the time when I get something unique, specific, and particular that's highly valuable to me, it is because I took the time to create the paradigm, introduce the paradigm, talk about the paradigm, encourage the lists, make the lists, review the lists, and partner to create massive value with someone on the list. In a relatively apathetic environment, meaning there are not thousands of Americans in any group, waiting to raise their hands, oh, me, I want to do that immediately. Never happened for me. But if you talk to 3 or 4 and they're interested in you, they probably won't do the list because they're excited about the list. They'll do it because they're interested in you. That's what happens to me, at least. But they will benefit. That's the odd thing. There's very little interest in this, but they will learn more than you do, because if you start doing this, you will have done this right and left and know your love languages and know your lists and know what makes you fulfilled and know what makes you happy and be growing like mad. And they'll never have had the experience, because all around the world, 10,000 people, no one ever has approached me, man or woman, to do this. And so you'll probably be the only one. Now, it's not rocket science. There's nothing new about it. It's just looking at the data that says if you run a business well, which I do, I get 89% of my jobs done early. I get all of my work done on budget. I make money 98% of the time. And I do what I say I will 98% of the time. And I respond and do everything, communicate and fill out the contract and keep my word. So, but it doesn't happen organically. It doesn't happen because it was meant to be. It doesn't happen because our star signs lined up. Oh, I can't wait to do contracting work for you. You're an Aquarius? Amazing. let's not bother with a contract. You just pay me when you feel like it. You know, I'll do work that feels right, and you will have a house you don't want in the next few years, and I will be bankrupt, and we can wonder why it wasn't meant to be. Or we can write a detailed contract, look at photos, price everything out, make sure it's a win-win, and proceed. So this is the landscape. The betrayal also comes in the negative. When you really need help with something and someone could give you 3 hours and it would make all the difference and make, you know, you wouldn't have a collapse right then, and they didn't help. So they denied that 3 hours. And you could have done a small favor when they asked for a reference or something, and you didn't because it wasn't important to you, because you weren't planning on using them in the near future for some favor of your own, so you just ignored that to prioritize your immediate needs. And so they get the feeling, of course, you're just using them, and that destroys the relationship. You could have helped me get on a new career path. I earned that reference, you didn't bother. Now I need you. Yeah, so do a lot of people, you know. It's not, doesn't feel very good. So this framework can create massive value in your relationships. It is a framework for sustainability in business, in personal relationships. It's a framework in any relationship, basically. It is how much value can you deliver, and you will be in high demand as an employer, as a company, as a group, as an individual, if you deliver a lot of what is valued highly at a lower price than the competition. Now the competition is 8 billion people and anything that someone can spend their time with. If someone has a dopamine addiction and is managing shame with a dopamine addiction, you're unlikely to be able to compete with Zynga or whatever game they're playing. It's giving them a hit every second. When you have a slow time frame, have critical things to say that they don't want to hear because they've been busy playing Zynga, and you wanted to have a conversation, so they don't want to hear that, and da-da-da-da-da, you're not going to be able to compete with that game. Who can give me the most dopamine to avoid my shame in the next 24 hours? Don't play that game. How many people can make me feel absolutely beautiful and help me forget the pain of my last relationship by whatever miscellaneous sex in the short term, which will turn into attachment, and then I'll start hitting you because you're not meeting my needs that I didn't bother to tell you about. Yeah, that's not probably a very good winning game either. But if you can find someone who will lay the things out and will communicate and who is not afraid to say, that's a -8 for me because I feel jealous because you know she's a much more attractive woman in my eyes than I am, and I feel inadequate, and every time you spend time with her it's a -8. You know, that's just how I feel. If you have the kind of relationship where you can talk these numbers candidly and say, yes, you're absolutely right, I think she's about 20% more attractive than you are, but that's not why I'm with you. If you think I'm with you because you're the most beautiful person, you haven't a clue. I'm with you because you stop buses to take care of Down syndrome children. And when I saw that, I saw that this is a very unusual woman. Someone who will get out of their comfort zone to protect the innocent. That's why I'm with you. I could give a shit about breast size. And you need to wake up and know that, or you're out to lunch in understanding why I love you. So, does that make any difference? And the reason I'm talking with her is because she is having a difficult problem with the relationship, and I like helping people. That gives me a nice buzz, and I enjoy checking in to see whether it works, and if it works really well, I try it in our relationship. I try and learn, because this is important to me. How do you understand? How do you feel now? What's your 1 to 10 score? What's your story? Does it converge more with reality, or you just keep fixating on the fact that she wears skimpier clothes than you, or whatever it is? What is it? If you can talk at this level with someone who is honest and who cares, you have a dynamite powerhouse of a relationship. I've experienced 4 dynamite powerhouses of relationships, and they're in direct relationship to this direction. This is just one, 45-minute snippet, but this can be played out over years. You can go into value hierarchies. You can take this into love languages. You can go into so many domains. And you can create the kind of culture where both people understand the law of energy. What you just did just hurt me -9. You could have avoided that by spending 5 extra minutes. Are you losing interest in the relationship, or are you going to change your behavior? Wake up. When you do that to a partner, and they care and they're intelligent, and they don't go into the belligerence of, oh, no one's going to tell me what to do, you've got a powerhouse of a relationship. It changes. Next day that doesn't happen, and the relationship has 9 points more value. If you talk with the best tax consultants of the top 1%, it is all about avoiding tax and investing the tax deferred or the tax-free money into new cash delivering assets. Now you are a completely unique person, so you have your own ideas about the 1%. I care about relationships. If you can avoid the taxes by educating your partner about the 10 things they do that irritate you, and 1 to 10, this irritates me a 9, and when you combine this one and this one, it's off the charts. I can't stand you when you combine forgetfulness with this trigger point. It's as if I'm completely invisible, and I will leave you if this starts happening on a repeated level. It's that big a deal. Do you understand? Because I do not need another 10 years of someone who doesn't see me and is off goofing around the way I had to put up with my mother. I do not need that. And I'm not going to create that. No. 1 to 10, what's the top big deal? On both sides. Don't you ever slap me awake like that. That's just what sets us off. It ruins the whole day. Da, 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 da. You got it? Okay, great. We're friends. You've just learned how to avoid 40% of this company's tax. You've just learned how to reduce the downside in this relationship by 40%. Now, what are you going to do with all that surplus capital? Should we read a new book together? Should we travel to a new country together? Should we grow together? Should we do a new exploration? Because we're going to be in a better mood because we're not spending a day cleaning up the mess from 10 minutes of stupidity because I wasn't paying attention, because you weren't paying attention. And I'm not going to be polite. Do you want a tax consultant who is too polite to point out a 40% tax savings? Do you want someone that even thinks that's intelligent, that it is polite to not point out that huge cost? You could have an extra 200 million this year if you called it this instead of this. But I don't want you to feel bad, so I'm not going to mention it. Do you think that person gets fired? or do you think they get promoted? We have bizarre protocols for communication and relationship that destroy massive amounts of relationship capital, massive amounts of growth, massive amounts of love and opportunity. And we coat these absurdities with words like romance, with words like natural, with words like uncomfortability, with rudeness. It's a tragedy that we treat our relationship capital as poorly. And what I tell every girlfriend who's scared that our relationship will end, I say, look, you're 1 in 100 who's going to do this stuff, number one. You've already got a 1 in 100 lead. Number two, if we apply this, we are going to grow faster. Our love will grow, our consciousness will grow, our states will grow, our pain will decrease, our reality will grow at a pace that is about 6 times faster than any relationship that doesn't use these metrics. It's no different than a business that gets quarterly reports, that checks which line items lost money and made money, and doesn't just say, oh, it was meant to be, is a business that's going to stop losing money and grow very rapidly and not be one of the 90% that fail within 3 years. So it's no different than that. You are going to grow 6 times faster, and we're going to track it week by week. How are you doing? How are you doing? How are you doing? How are you doing? How are we doing? How are we doing? What are we going to change today? What are we going to change this week? What are we going to do now? We're getting into a stagnant period. We've grown. We did really well in months 2 or 3 this year, and now we're just plateauing. It's getting a little boring, isn't it? It's nice to have a piece of a rest for a month, but what's going to be our next rise? You see, what's going to be our next rise? How can we create post-romantic growth, to use, I forget his name, Bradshaw's, it's actually a nice book, Post-Romantic Growth. How are we going to create that for each other using these metrics? What's your 1 to 10 scale? Has any of these changed? Are you still feeling on a 1 to 10 scale? How completely and totally loved do you feel? If you want to know with me, just ask me. What can I do to make you feel completely and totally loved in this moment? Because one of the worst things that you get into is projection leading to capital loss, where you spend massive amounts of energy to do the thing you think your partner wants when it pisses them off. It's a joke. You know, that I'm busy writing my book, my girlfriend comes in, do you want some lime juice right now? It's like, I don't even want the question right now. Would you like some croissant? I don't want that question either. You know, shush. You know, then she feels, her love isn't wanted. So you have to communicate. No. Your love is wanted. That's not love. As I've told you, when I'm writing, write me a note. I'll glance at it and finish my sentence, because I don't want to be lost in the middle of a paragraph and that book and chapter doesn't get written because you chopped a paragraph in half and I can't find the thread. That's it. So that's the line. Now here's how you handle it. You write a note, stick it there, that's perfect. But even better, way better. You're not a mind reader and I don't expect you to be. Anytime you want to do something great for me, just do this. What can I do right now that would make you feel deeply loved and supported? I like that question. You know, that's a great question. I think I'd like to lean back and have my feet rubbed. Could you make me some fresh squeezed orange juice? That'd be a 10 out of 10. And you didn't thank me for dinner last night, and I kind of chose that restaurant just because of you. I'd like you to thank me for dinner. Did you enjoy the dinner? 1 to 10, how much? Oh, it was a 10. You see, you didn't tell me that. I'd love to hear that. Okay, so thank me for dinner. And later today, you can make me a painting that has some nice gold colors in it. This, that. How about that? 1 to 10, how much do you want to do that? Well, I want to do the orange juice 8, massage 6. The painting, I'm excited, but it'll take a few days. Okay, I'll wait a few days. Okay, are we good? Okay, fine, done. And what can I do to make you feel totally loved and supported? I thought maybe I could take you swimming here, or do this, or what would you like that would make you feel totally loved and supported? How much did our love grow today? This is one of our, questionnaires. How much did my love for you, your love for me, is it growing? Is it shrinking? What's growing and shrinking it? Do we care enough to measure? What you measure grows. And the absurd thing is, unlike Bhutan, we measure money spent, not how much happiness there is in our country. And we're very proud of the fact that we spend more money than almost any other country per capita, and ignore the fact that we are not at all leading the developed countries in happiness. And if we measure joy and stuff, I find people in concrete hovels and tin huts with sticks and chicken wire windows, smiling and radiant in Thailand at a metric of well-being and presence that is 500% higher than any American I know. A metric of joy and presence. And there is no granite countertop. And there is no 401k plan. There's just joy and presence. And I want to spend time with her. And I want to spend time with him. And I do. Hours upon hours and hours of time. And I go away feeling wonderful and delighted to be reminded in an intelligent cult, Thailand, in this area, in an intelligent cult, that the best things in life are free. The best things in life are about presence and time. Joy, honesty, integrity, beauty. And learning to create that, learning to do this with a partner, 500% more valuable than learning to do it with a business. I'd rather make $10,000 a year and live with a partner that lives in these questions. We can find a tent, a teepee, camp out. It's wonderful. Nature, live in Tibet, whatever. Then have $1 billion company where you go home to sycophantic vampires that suck the soul out of the individuals, of the employees, and do not create the love. It's the science supports the idea that this kind of stuff is more valuable. So that's what I focus most of my energy on. And I hope it's useful for you, because that gives me pleasure. I use a hard tone, by the way, at times, and some sarcasm to get through the crust of numbness, and ambivalence that I encounter, not in Thailand, but this is a Western video for Americans. This is important stuff. It's made all the difference in my life. And I want it to reach you. And we have so many ways of chauvinizing the feminine that it's almost as if tenderness and sweetness is an automatic negative. It's a negative value in a chauvinistic cult. So it's difficult to communicate in a chauvinistic cult. Now, in a chauvinistic cult, feminine energy is far more valuable than masculine energy because it's in short supply. It's in short supply because in a chauvinistic cult, men and women compete to be more masculine. It's just what happens. If you take a supply and you can change, and you can choose to be an outlet, feminine, a wall outlet, or a plug, masculine. You can choose which to be, and you're going to be valued 25% for being a wall outlet and 75% for being a plug. Your speaking abilities will be valued more than your listening abilities. Your knowledge will be valued more than your presence. Your money will be valued more than your caring. Your skill in this and that area and your fame will be valued more than your capacity to love and receive. There's going to be a lot of competition to be in the masculine pole on both men and women's side. And there'll be very little competition. In fact, this will be seen as an inferior position. It takes a scientist to point out the absurdity. The absurdity that when most people are trying to talk and no one's trying to listen, it is the same as there being 5 plugs and 1 outlet. 4 of the plugs are going to go underutilized because the flow in a cult emerges when masculine and feminine energy is in balance. When the emphasis on the individual and the emphasis on the community is the same. When the emphasis on the heart and the emphasis on the mind is the same. When you go to school and you learn how to feel as well as how to think, as well as how to integrate and treat your body well. That's when you learn health and flow. Anything else is a recipe for mediocrity. And that is what we have. We have a United States of mediocre relationships, created in so many ways. And we have people right now paying thousands and tens of thousands of dollars to learn this basic stuff when it comes to money, who will happily pay for Facebook likes and this, that could help their business, or writing articles that will help their SEO and do this and that and the other, and who have not and will never in 60 years write a single list for their partner of how their partner can deliver 800% more value than they're currently bringing, and look at how they can do the same. This is absurd. It is insane, so we're dealing with a level of cultural insanity that is only masked by the cult-like nature of every cult, which is to not question what everyone is doing as long as everyone's doing it. I've never met a single man or woman in any country in the world who had these lists ready. And I have not met a single man or woman who created these lists together in partnership who did not dramatically accelerate value. Is there something a little bit unscientific about this gap in data? You'd look at the chauvinism more carefully if you imagined that I had just given you a combination lock and a locker key. And I said, if you go to this train station, at this locker, you can have $2 million. You would be off like a shot. But the data supports that with $2 million, you are not likely to create as much well-being with your partner as you would doing this list. And many of you are going to do absolutely nothing. Now, the data also shows in Sonia Lyubomirsky's work that after basic survival needs are met, which for the US citizen is about 60,000 per individual, after basic survival needs are met, your well-being does not go up when you have more money as a general rule. Now, when money is associated with social status, it's confusing because social is what matters. After survival comes love and belonging. Now, when you get compliments and praises and smiles for your Lexus, that matters because it's belonging and social. When you're welcome to the party because you've got the cool outfit in a materialistic culture, then the money matters. But it's not the money, it is the belonging. And the belonging in intelligent cultures, I mean, there are tribes with a waistband of reeds for their cool Gucci outfit that have more belonging, more trust, more dignity, more honor, more value in their emotion, less disease, less crime, less rape, less incest in their cultures. There are tribes that do this for free at an 800% margin over our cult. But that doesn't top our stupidity. We are a stupid cult. Every cult is stupid. Every cult does what everyone else is doing because there's a lot of reward for fitting in. It's a frightening and a traumatized cult to go into the unknown. So this is a difficult thing to face. It is a challenging thing to question one's cult, to start sampling cults around the world. So, well, this cult, everyone wears a little waistband of reeds and sings and dances and grieves for 3 days when someone dies, and I feel pretty good after that. This cult, we wear black hats, we pay $20,000 for a coffin, stick them in the ground, and I have to go back about my day and nobody asks me about my grief. $20,000 free, feel good, feel numb. Let's think about that. Do we? Or can't question the cult, right? So see you later, and I hope this is useful in your relationships.